Good morning and welcome. My name is Jess Jones. I am the Center Director with the Coffer Resource Center based here in Chicago, Illinois. We are the resource center that exists to support union professionals in their professional pursuit of excellence. And we are so happy that you are with us this morning. If you are also joining us on Facebook, hello. And for folks on Zoom, hello. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, hello. It's good to be with you. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping points. If you want to stay tuned for the events that we are doing, please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that on our website. It's at coffercenterchicago.com. You can scroll right down to the bottom and there's a button for the Coffer headliner. You subscribe there and you will get all of these events delivered straight to your inbox, so you will be sure not to miss out. We would love to have you. You could also follow us on social media at Coffer Center. That's on Facebook and Instagram. We post photos from events and reminders of upcoming events there. So please do be part of the virtual conversation with us and stay tuned, because we would love to have you at future events and have you part of the community. Speaking of community, I am excited to invite Dr. Greta Pope to the conversation. Dr. Greta Pope has been wonderful and so generous to our community to create this space and this series for performers to stay connected with one another, to hear what everyone has been up to. And I her on and bringing this to the Coffer Center as a conversation series that we've been proud to host and partner with her. So Greta, thank you so much and good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Jess. Thank you. It's great to see you. How have you been? You look beautiful today.
I'm trying. I think trying in the time of pandemic means putting on a red lip. My daughter lost her mind essentially once I put it on. She's like, "You have a thing on. You look very fancy. You look very pretty." I'm like, "That's how you know that when a 3-year-old tells you you're killing it with a red lip, you're like, see, we've all lowered the bar, but I'm going to accept that. I'm going to take that compliment and be like, yes, today I put on a lip and I showed up." So thank you, Greta, for giving me a reason to put on a face, right?
It's good to see you. It's good to
see you. Well, I'm going to let you take over the conversation from here. But as always, thank you so much before we get started for creating this space. It is wonderful. And like I've said in many other times, it is what I miss, which is just a space where we can all get together and talk and hear what everyone's been up to. So thank you so much for taking this time with us to create this space virtually.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for allowing for this kind of thing. It's so wonderful. And I think people really do enjoy it. And I certainly enjoy it, to have an opportunity to see friends and just interact with people. It's important. It's important.
It is important. And it's what a lot of people miss. So I hope that this is what some people are looking for today. And I thank you for taking this on. And without further ado, I will leave the conversation up to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jess. Hey there, and welcome to SoundCheck. I'm Dr. Greta Pope, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to visit with creatives from a variety of disciplines about their professional journey. We are in the midst of a pandemic that has changed all of our lives and the ways in which we work. We will use this forum to share our thoughts, our feelings, and best practices for surviving this challenging time. I am so excited to chat with today's guests. Today we have Wendy and DB with us. Award-winning Kindie duo from Chicago, Wendy and DB write and perform songs about science, nature, diversity, safety, and the arts. Their unique style is reflected in the music and the catchy lyrics, along with their vocal harmonies. They examine the world with curiosity and just plain fun. Let's take a look at their new song, Mask Up. Henri?
Wanna be safe, mask up. Wanna do right, mask up. Put the mask across your face. Hide your lips without a trace. Mask up. Mask up. Mask up. Mask up. Going inside, mask up. Seeing my friends, mask up. Put the mask on ear to ear. Maskinista of the year, mask up. mask up, mask up, mask up. Yeah. Oh, shucks. Keep the germs at bay each and every day. Just a little while before we see your smile. Fill your loving cup, pulling that mask up. Show your neighbors that you care. Wear that mask everywhere. Want to be safe, mask up. Want to do right, mask up. Put the mask across your face. Hide your nose without a trace. Mask up, mask up, mask up, mask up. They come in all kinds, rainbows and designs, red, yellow, blue. No one can be just like you. Superheroes wear them, they save the day. Spooky, silly, planetary. Hey, masks are necessary. Wanna be safe, mask up. Wanna do right, mask up. Put the mask across your face. Hide your lips without a trace. Mask up, mask up, mask up, mask up. Going inside, mask up. Seeing my friends, mask up. Put the mask on ear to ear. Wait, you'll hear a great big cheer. Mask up, woohoo! Mask up, mask up, woohoo! Mask up.
So cute. So cute. So let's introduce our guests. Wendy Morgan has been writing, recording, performing, and touring with Wendy and DB, her original award-winning Kindy duo. Wendy and DB have released 4 albums and have performed throughout the United States. They also spend time on special music projects with school groups, community choirs, to raise money for various social causes and not-for-profit organizations. Wendy has appeared throughout Chicagoland as a featured vocalist in many well-known orchestras. On the national level, her voice has been heard on television commercials, as well as movie cameos and appearances on the soap opera Days of Our Lives. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you, Greta.
It's so good to see you.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so Daryl Boggs, affectionately known as DB, is a full-time musician. After leaving his band director position in 2018 at the Lindop School in Broadview, Illinois, he turned his attention to cabaret, orchestra, and creating and performing children's music with Wendy and DB. Daryl Boggs has been making music professionally for over 40 years. He has worked in the private and public school systems where he's taught band, choir, and classroom music. When school budgets were cut, he was given kindergarten through 3rd grade level classes, and that is where he found his love of crafting songs for young children. Welcome, Daryl.
Welcome. Good to see you, Greta.
Good to see you. Good
Yes, long time.
Absolutely. It's been a long time. Absolutely. So I want to ask you guys, I see that you each have some very exciting backgrounds there. So Daryl, since you are large on our screen now, tell us about your background. What is it and what is its significance?
Well, significance of my background is that, like, you know, from the time I was a little child, I just always wanted to play music. That's all I've ever wanted to do, was just play and teach music. And so I started that, you know, after I went through high school and college, and I got my degrees in music education. I started that around 1983, started teaching kids, and I taught for many, many years. Over that time, I probably had a really unique experience in the fact that I've taught in a predominantly white school and a predominantly Black school.
Okay.
Both of them for 16 years apiece. And it gives you kind of a really good perspective on culture and, you know, how you can affect children's lives.
Yeah.
You know, for one school, it was like, this is something we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And then another school, you come in, they're like, this is something we haven't seen before.
Right. From two different perspectives, but
yes, you look at that. And exactly.
Yeah.
And then all along the way there, I started playing music, like I said, my father owned a blues club.
Okay.
I was like about 6 or 7 years old. So without me even knowing it, I'm sitting down in front of the stage. Here's Muddy Waters. Here's Holland Wolf. Here's Junior Wells. I didn't know who they were. I was 6, 7 years old.
Wow.
And then, you take all that in, and then with all of that performance work, you work all through the years, played in various clubs and places. Like I said, I've played with Tony Bennett. I've played with Milt Chenier. I've played for the Temptations. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So you bring all that to the fore.
And you don't even realize how it informs your performance. You don't even know.
No.
It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
No, you don't. You have no idea. And you bring that to all the work you do, like I said. And you know this, all the high-end parties we played around town, corporate events, and then all the club dates and all the different styles I played in. You bring that all together. And now I'm at children's music. I never thought I would see myself at this point doing just children's music. I mean, I've played it all my career, but at this point, finally having just a focus, or one of my focuses, on just children's music. It's been really great.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, Wendy, so tell us a little bit about you. You were mentioning something to me earlier that you are about to embark upon a very exciting world travel experience.
Oh, Paris, which is right behind me.
Yes.
It's always been a dream for me to do that. But I thought you were asking DB about the backdrop.
Well, I was actually, but I'm going to talk about yours and then I'll go back to DB.
Well, let me just say, since I'm the set designer also, which is a hat that we all have had to put on, set designer, tech person, all of that I'll tell you a little bit about DB's backdrop because it came from my father who lived in Africa. And this is much more interesting than my trip to Paris. Trust me, that's just a dream that is going to come true in the next year and a half. But this is fabric behind him. It's African print. It's basically hand printed African print. So it's a certain way that they process it, and it's a beautiful design. And actually, he had a whole shipping case full of this fabric. And I was clearing out some stuff, and I started pulling it out, and I just gave it away because it was, why was it sitting in this case for so long?
Yeah.
And one of them, I was like, DB, you take that, use it as your backdrop. It looks great behind him.
It looks fantastic.
And it's such a special piece of cloth. Now, this has another story to it that I'd love to tell.
Okay.
When we went into the shutdown, our album, Hey Big World, which Mask Up is not on. That's a single that came out afterwards. But our album, Hey Big World, was released. We got postponed. Lots of gigs got canceled and all. But to this, I ordered this for our release party. And it did not come till after the virtual release that we had, but it was coming from China. So what do you think? No, they weren't going to let that in the country. Right. I just wanted the whole world behind us when we did our release. So that's where that came from.
It's so wonderful. I mean, it's the both of your backgrounds they're complementary and they're different and they are wonderful. They're wonderful. Yeah. So now I want to ask a little bit more about DB's background. Is there a significance to it, or it's just African fabric?
It's just an African piece of fabric. They're hand pressed. Wow. Okay, they're really awesome. And I gave, like I said, a girlfriend of mine, anybody who would be able to use it, I was giving it away because I don't know. I feel like, this is the environment we're in right now. If we can give somebody something, and I knew that DB, he had a green screen, but I find those green screens extremely boring, and I keep wanting to doctor them up a little bit. So.
Yeah. Well, it looks great. You did a good job. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to know, Wendy, how did the idea of creating children's programming begin? How did you and Daryl decide to embark upon this path together? I mean, it's just, you both have such illustrious backgrounds, and how you guys came together is just, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's, this is an interesting story. I was teaching. So when I got divorced and my son was 2.5, I started teaching children's music on top of my weekend warrior musician jobs and the other jobs I had. And then I got divorced, and I was like, how am I going to pick my son up from preschool at 11, what job is going to let me leave at 11 to go get him and spend the afternoon? No job. That was the answer to that. So I decided that teaching children's music would be a good avenue for me. So I created a program at the Wilmette Park District, and actually I've just left. I was there for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Doing children's music.
How
Somewhere about year number 10, one of the moms said, "Why don't you have an album?" I didn't create an album of children's music because I thought I was there temporarily, but life has its way of just kind of, working you out the way it wants to work you out. And I thought, wow, I really should do a children's album. And it was kind of a trial, it's like, okay, let's just try this and see. But who do I go to first? My buddy Daryl, DB, who I had been doing adult music with. And, it was just a R&B, we had played Taste of Chicago. We had some great concerts, but it wasn't something I could do full time or that I felt, was hugely successful in that way. So I said, hey, would you like to do a children's album? And I know at that particular time, that was our first album, that he was all given the kindergarten and the early grades where he was at Lindop. So that was, the timing was just right. And he said, yeah. The first album I really pushed, because I had an agenda like I had all these songs in my head, and that one was birthed pretty fast. But I had already done one album of adult music. That was DB's first album, right, DB? That was your first release.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you guys have been working together for a long time.
That was 2013.
Yep.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Daryl, how long have you been writing children's music? I know, that you began writing or having an interest in children's music when you were teaching young children.
Right.
I'm just curious, do you guys collaborate on the songs or do you each write separately or how does that work?
It's a combination of things, really. Like I said, my getting started really, I could probably go back to about 2000. It really hit me when I moved to public school. Like I said, I had taught in a private school for many, many years, and I finally got my first job in public school. And like I said, now I'm in a predominantly Black school, and I didn't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
So the one thing I've always been kind of known for is do it on the spot, make it up on the spot. So my kids would come in the room, especially when I had to work with younger kids, especially at that time, it was mostly grades 4 through 8. And so they would just come in the room and I'd have my guitar out and I would create these hello songs and goodbye songs and, songs about, mama going to the grocery store and, daddy bringing home the pig feet to cook with the rice and the greens. And, then the kids like, you are so funny, Mr. Boggs. You are so funny. And so I said, well, yeah, I said, you all know what I do. And so that's kind of where the seed was planted. But then, like I said, we came to around 2012, 2013, and Wendy came up with this idea that, we should do this. And at the same time, what's so interesting, the first song on our first album is called It's Morning. That song I had been honing with my students for about 3 months.
Wow.
I've been working on like, it's morning, how are you? We start that. So then when we finally started writing, Wendy's like, hey, wait a minute. I can write some verses to that. Said, you got the chorus. Let me see if I can write some verses to that. So she wrote like the last 2 verses. I had 1 verse and all the choruses. She wrote a couple more verses to it. Next thing you know, on our first CD, what's the first song? It's Morning. And so that's kind of how I got in it.
That's fantastic. Wow. So you guys are just collaborating and doing all kinds of things and I'm sure giving each other ideas and just great things. It's wonderful.
It's been really interesting working with DB. So we both kind of come with a little bit of improv background and we put that into our music too. So like when you say, well, how do you do this? Generally, I'm the lyricist. Sometimes I write the music. Sometimes DB has an idea, like It's Morning was his lyric there. So sometimes it's a complete Wendy and DB collaboration. It's all mixed up. It's one or the other.
That's wonderful. And that's how you come up with great ideas and great music.
Well, it keeps it interesting,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
Because
yeah,
it's not one person's ideas necessarily. It's like, yeah. But
yeah.
I take a lot of my ideas from the universe anyway, from right
Right.
outside nature, it's like
Yeah,
all there.
that's great. That's great. So Wendy, tell us a little bit about what your performing schedule was like before the pandemic and how has it changed during the pandemic?
Well, we've had to do some clever footwork. Um, we've, well,
Yeah.
we had like over the summer, there were about we were really busy. I had worked really hard to get us a really good tour schedule. We had a tour to Wisconsin. We were going to New York. We were going to do our CD release party at the Children's Museum of Manhattan. We had one here at the Evanston Space. Everything got canceled.
Yeah.
Which everything got canceled. So everybody must know that. It was the reinvention part that was the complicated part, because all those contracts that I had spent all that time working on were just pretty much out the door. I had to have a virtual addendum tagged on now because we were going to just go virtual with whatever we could.
Yeah.
Luckily, we held on to Wisconsin. So we did a whole Wisconsin tour, and the Chicago Public Library also had us this past summer, and we were able to do all of those. So we were sometimes, some of these places, we were their maiden voyage of virtual, which was great.
Wow.
And to us, I mean, honestly, DB, right? Being with the
Yeah.
kid or without the kids was the hardest part. It's the hardest part of
Yeah.
going virtual. It's not having that energy in front
Yeah.
of to feed off, but DB and I feed off each other. So it's much
that's
better
good.
when we're together, I like
Yeah.
it. But lately we've been doing some Facebook shows where we're in separate places like we are today. I like this
Yeah.
better because I get to see DB's whole face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So were you live streaming or pre-recorded or
Everything.
everything?
We
All of the above.
recorded.
Everything.
Yeah, we pre-recorded a bunch of things. So we sent recordings. Actually, our tour in Michigan, they said, good, just send us. They're awesome. We're
Yeah.
with the Kent Library District in Michigan. We're like one of their regulars. And
great.
they said, just send us 4 videos. And, that contract we were able to keep. It's like, oh my gosh, people, you guys are a blessing to us, and so we've been taking care of them too. We do whatever we can to, reciprocate. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just wonderful. Phoebe, how about you? What was your schedule like before? Were each of you guys doing a lot of other things in addition to this, or were you doing primarily this?
Well, for me, I play with a really high-end jobbing band in Chicago, and we had like about 75, 80 gigs scheduled.
Oh my.
And you've done it. Like I said, playing all these high-end parties and all these corporate functions during the week. It got so that we were asked to put a blues band together. So there's a blues band now called DB and the Boys.
Oh.
And that it's just a corporate thing. And we do it during the week. And we were doing like 20 to 30 gigs a year, just that, which kind of fulfills a dream for me because, I've always wanted to have my own blues band. And so that really to play, 3 hours of nothing but the blues. It's just wonderful. And that's what I was doing. And pandemic comes. That's all gone.
Yeah.
All went away. And like Wendy's talking about, some of our things went away. Fortunately, we were able to keep on to about 30 of them, and we were able to survive that way. But the other things I was doing, every club date, every hotel date, gone.
Yeah. It's been challenging, no doubt about it. But one thing as creative people, though, we do kind of know how to pivot because it's kind of the nature of what we have to do on a regular basis.
Yes.
One thing doesn't work out, you kind of think, okay, let's try this. If that doesn't work out, let's try this. So, that's part of being creative, I think. And I'm glad that you guys were able to, to pivot and find some things that work for you. And you had some clients that, that welcomed your performances. I had several convention things over the summer. And a number of them, I did some of them live stream. I did some where I pre-recorded and sent them the video. So, people are tried to figure out how to make it work.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Wendy, were you doing a lot of other things prior to this, or were you doing mostly this?
So someone has to do all of this.
I know, you have to do the business part. Yeah.
Yes.
I've been marketing and I'm booking. You're looking at the behind the scenes person as much as the front person.
I know.
So plus writing, all the lyrics and finish. This last album was very interesting because DB, we had a big loss in the family, and that was his mom passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It was a shocker. And actually we were on tour in Michigan. This happened right before. It wasn't this, it was the year before, but that was when we were just like we were just finishing up. It must've been, was it October, DB?
October. It was October.
So we were just finishing, getting the finishing touches, and I had a few more songs, that needed to be recorded and stuff. But we were in Michigan. That was one of our last tours to Michigan. And this happened. And I think this just is really, no matter, you cannot be prepared. She was 96. She had an amazing life.
Yeah.
She was such a positive, glowing, lovely person. But it was her time. So we had, it was earth shattering. And me being very close to DB, it was, it was a very, and we were in the middle of the album. So I had to, my long story short, I'm just trying to pick up, hold everything up at that point. Yeah. And be there for DB and keep the project moving, because I'm very motivated to keep things moving. Not sure, it's just part of my personality, I suppose.
Yep.
DB likes to call me the Energizer Bunny.
Yes.
Yeah, I can relate to that, wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Because I do that as well. You've got to, when I actually get on stage and have an opportunity to perform, I'm like, oh, this is great, because most of my work is all the other stuff, the contracts and the, looking for the work and the marketing and all of those things, so I understand, and my hat is off to you, because it's a big job.
Well, artists out there, anybody who's like us, Greta, I say be careful, because honestly, start to recognize that, because I used to want to cater the event. I mean, come on, people, we don't need to do everything.
Oh yeah, you're interesting, because we've gone to play things, and it should be, they should be doing this right here. The caterer should be there. I'm like, you should be a party planner, maybe.
Yep, that is too funny.
The very best thing about this last album is that I got Rich Rankin produced this album. So I had produced every album plus all the other things I was doing. I was like, okay, let's start taking some of these hats off now.
Right.
I don't need to cater, I don't. So I started taking things away, and that really helped a lot.
Yeah. Well, it saves your sanity, and it allows you to focus on the things that you really love and really want to be doing.
Exactly. So
yeah, that's really important. Yeah.
Great.
That's great. So it didn't take you guys long to figure out how to pivot. That was going to be my question. Did it take you long? But I've heard from what you said, you're like, oh my gosh, we just got to jump on this and get with it. So when the pandemic first began, Wendy, what was your first thing, other than going, oh my gosh?
Other than pulling the computer that I had bought. The other thing that I marvel at is I had lights. I have them on right now. I had lights that there was one point that I was thinking we were going to shoot some kind of television show in my garage. So I bought these huge lights. I'm like, how is it that I had everything needed? Everybody's scrambling for, I didn't have a green screen, but it was, okay, then, staying on top of it. I'm sure it's good for my brain as I get older. Staying on top of everything technologically. You have to shout out, sound engineer help, help me in whatever way you can, all of that. The biggest part of keeping things together was, getting an addendum for virtual, so that people didn't take. You have to protect yourself. And as a union person, you know what I'm talking about. I had to create an addendum so that people wouldn't take advantage of us giving them the recording.
Right.
I did that.
Yeah.
So I was able to just get up, but I'm not going to lie to you. I have somebody helping me with I have an assistant helping me with some of this stuff because I know obviously it's important. The creative part is really important, and that's where I need to be.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's such an important thing. I also have an assistant, and I got her, I think maybe last March or April, when I realized I was going to have to be doing a lot of other kinds of things. And I needed somebody to just do some of the other more kind of traditional things that I had been doing. Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing for people to realize. You cannot do it all.
You
And
can't.
yeah.
And it takes actually, I think in everything. We're leading right now we're leading a social justice panel for the Children's Music Network. So I've shifted, and I've had leadership roles before.
Absolutely.
But in this children's music area, I hadn't, other than being the front person with DB of the band, I haven't really, taken on those roles again, but I have shifted into a leadership role to help people, resolve some of the social justice and the racial inequities we have in this country. So DB has been doing that with me and with Saul Paul out of Austin, Texas, and we do a monthly meeting about that, about taking action. So
that is so wonderful, and to expose children at such an early age, that is just. It's wonderful. That's what it takes for them to grow up with a different mindset.
And I'll just say something really quickly. DB, I know he feels the same way about this, that we were gifted from doing a show downtown. Easter Seals found us, and Easter Seals children are the most beautiful children. They are not in neighborhood. They are in neighborhoods that are underserved, and they definitely are music starved. And we have had the Easter Seals has also come through for us we did a teacher training. So we've done an assortment of reinvention, but not getting stuck going, oh, we have to do this, and we also have the Kids Music Fest, which we, have invited people from all over the world. So we've been moving.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So how have you found your audiences online? Did you have these audiences already for the most part, and you just have gone virtual with them? Or have you been reaching out to attract new audiences that might have been from other countries or other areas that you can service as well?
Well, we kind of started up on the North Shore. That's kind of where we got our start. So that audience was developed first.
Okay.
And then we began to branch out by getting things through Easter Seals and through the Chicago Public Library. We began to branch out more into the city, the north side, then into the south side, then finally into, where I grew up on the west side. And we finally began to branch in those areas. And then slowly, surely, now here comes the west suburbs. Now here comes the south suburbs. Now here comes Joliet. Next thing you know, we're going down to Bloomington Normal. And, we're developing our audiences all over. We've played a gig in Kentucky. Doing that. And Indiana, we've played all over the Midwest now, developing our audience, keeping updated. When you go to our YouTube channel, you can see the updates we've made on our YouTube channel with our videos, some videos from our live shows. For a while there, we were playing at a club up there. I forget the name of the place now, but we were playing up on Belmont.
Okay.
We were playing up there, and that's it, B Kitchen. Yes, we're playing for B Kitchen.
And still be there if it weren't for COVID. We just
yes,
doing anything.
Yeah. It would be. And so we began to develop an audience there, playing there about every couple of months. So that's a lot how we've done it. Like keeping our YouTube channel updated with the latest videos that we're involved in. And also, with some of our live shows. And then, just the Kids Music Fest has been a real godsend. It has been just wonderful because
tell Greta what we're raising money for, because I forgot.
Oh, yeah. We're raising money for No Kid Hungry. Oh. And it's a wonderful organization, and which says exactly what it does. And that's what we do. So every show, the money that we raise there goes to No Kid Hungry. Our artists come in, and on our show, we've had national renowned family children's artists on our show. And we've had artists from New Zealand, Europe, all over the place.
That's wonderful. That you guys are doing it. I'm telling you, it is such a niche market, but
Yes.
a great niche. I mean, it's wonderful. Because
Highly.
looking for stuff for their children,
Yeah.
looking for good, wholesome stuff for their kids.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
It is great.
We have a lot of fun. We do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Most of the
I
time,
know.
most of the time it's just DB and I, but we have a whole band. I feel really sad this year. We've had to scale back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we miss the band. We miss
Right.
the band. And I guess it's looking like we might be able to play outside this summer. So
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed is right. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
That's true.
So do you guys have any way that individual children can join your events? Because it sounds like you go primarily to organizations or to libraries or that kind of thing.
well, if you visit our website, so I actually have a children's class that I'm teaching right now virtually. I only have 3. This is really funny. I have 3 boys in it. 3 boys. And I would always say the boys are the hardest ones to work to. They don't usually like to focus, but when it comes to technology, they seem to be much more focused than the girls.
Mhm.
They're right there.
That's great.
So it's a very small class. It's on Wednesday mornings. And then DB and I, we also do we do a Facebook Live from directly from wendyanddb.com. And we've created an event so they can just sign up there, and that's free. I mean, we will accept donations, but we haven't monetized that. And
But
then
Great though, because even though you're not monetizing it, you are building friends. And when things open up and you are performing again in live settings, those people will come to see you.
Well,
Yes.
this summer, we actually, through the Chicago Federation of Musicians, they had some money they called the M Heart Fund, and they encouraged us to have a concert in front of my house. So we had one, and then that went, actually, we didn't get as many of my neighbors as I wanted. So we did the next one without them. And we had the concert, we did 2 concerts right on my front lawn,
Wow.
Right.
keeping people, separated.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Created pods for them.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. So what would you guys advise musicians or people wanting to get into this business? What would you advise them to do or not to do?
Can I say something just really quick? I meant to say this before, DB,
Oh,
and then it's you. Ramsey Lewis, I once had a conversation with Ramsey Lewis, and he said to me, if there's anything you can do as a musician, diversify. You do whatever you need to do to make a living. Diversify. You will always be able to work. So diversify.
Yep. Okay. That one word, diversify. I love it. And it is so true. It's so true. DB, how about you? Any
Well, that
thoughts?
kind of goes along with me. My uncle was a drummer for Nat Cole
Wow.
in the Shuffle Along show in California.
Wow. Cool.
And when I was a kid, he always taught me, and it's kind of like the same message. He always taught me, if you're going to be a musician, be able to play anything somebody puts in front of you, be able to interpret anything someone throws at you, and be able to know your style as well. He said, if you do, you will always work. He
Wow.
said, just make sure people know who you are.
That's right.
You let
That's
people
right.
know who you are, and that's
That's
where,
right.
that's, if I was to pick up on your other question, if I was going to ask somebody to come into music, or especially into family music, say, first of all, you got to be a kid at heart. You got to have that got to remember what it was like when you were a child, and if you remember that and how much you love watching those shows on TV, like Captain Kangaroo and Bugs Bunny, and looking at the old Hard Rock Coco and Joe. If you love that stuff, keep it as a kid at heart, because remember who your audience is.
You're right.
And you bring that love to it. You bring that love of your own childhood along with the love of the music to go along with that, and then you can pass that along to other people, and people will be much more receptive, because people can tell if you love what you
That's
do.
right. That's right. That's right. There are 3 things that I think are so important when it comes to being a performer. You want people to know who you are, as you were saying, that your uncle has told you. You want them to like you, as you
Yes.
were also saying that the kids like you, and you want them to trust you. And in you guys'
Yes.
case, the parents trusting that what you're bringing to their children is enhancing their life experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Wonderful.
just play with them. They think I'm another child. And girl once said, "Hey, can I have a play date with you?" I knew I was successful at that moment.
They love you're a hugger. We're both huggers. We're both huggers. So,
I missed the hugging part.
yep.
Oh, yeah, that's very sweet.
Or the
Yeah.
butterfly kisses from little boys
Oh,
Oh.
so sweet.
and little
So
girls.
sweet. So what do you guys think that the future looks like for musicians? Wendy, you want to answer?
Oh, wow. This is a tough question. I think that musicians, like you said, we're creative, we're flexible. I think that musicians, you know who really inspires me? Steve Martin inspires me. Do you know why he inspires me?
Why?
Because he's got it all. Because he can act, he's playing banjo, he's funny, he's just a down-to-earth guy. Okay, I'm inspired by people that tap into every part of them. Don't go, oh, this is what I am. So first of all, I do a lot of I've done a lot of reading. Pema Chadron talks a lot about labels. So be careful, because if you put yourself in a label, you're really limiting yourself to whatever that label is. On this last album, I was asked to pick up the ukulele. I play the guitar, not as good as my partner here, but I play the guitar, and I've been playing it for a while now. Thank you, Melanie. Melanie said, I love it.
Yep.
Yes, they are. And don't let somebody do that to you, or don't do it to yourself. Okay. We're guilty of both of those things. But if you just try, like my producer said, well, I hear ukulele on that. And I was like, I have a ukulele, but it's been sitting there for like 2 years. Okay, all right, I'll pick it up. And I was nervous, but the other thing that stops us is fear. So there's a way to just get past that fear. I push past the fear. That's how I get things done.
Yeah.
So, and Greta, I think you strike me as that kind of person as well.
That's right. You just keep going. One foot in front of the other. Yeah.
And I know to some people that sounds so foreign, but trying something new. Dr. Sanjay Gupta told us all to try something new.
Right.
I used to say to my husband, one thing new a day. Try to give yourself a little, or even one thing new a week. But I like kind of one thing new a day.
You never know. You might come up on something that you love that you would never have even known if you hadn't tried it.
Absolutely. So I hope I answered the question. I have no idea.
Yeah, you did. DB, what about you? What do you think? What do you think the future looks like for musicians?
Future for musicians. First thing, got to get past this pandemic.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But that aside, like I said, I kind of answered it before, but the one thing musicians have to do is continue to love what they do and begin to create on another level. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing if you say, well, I'm a rock guitarist, or I'm a jazz guitarist, or I'm a blues guitarist. Well, how about studying a little folk music? How about listening to a little bluegrass? Because when you really begin to look at it, I can speak as a guitarist, it all comes together. It all kind of like, if you really do your studying and you study your music theory and your harmony, and you study all the styles and everything, orchestration, everything, it all kind of comes together. It's kind of all the same thing. It's all one tree, and there are branches of that tree. And, those styles are just branches of the tree. And then, of course, even those branches have branches. But if you just stay on those little pieces, you're only limiting yourself. You have to begin to pull all those pieces together and begin to do other things and bring it all into a full. Like now, what she just said, she try to find a new thing to do every day. For me, it's kind of been in reverse. I've kind of gone back to the things that I always loved, because I was teaching school. I never had a chance to do.
Yeah.
I love reading books. I love history. I'm a history buff. I love, especially particularly in the history of the Negro Leagues, because my father used to play with the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
And, and there's a lot of other things. And I find myself going back to those things now, and then picking up some new things along the way. So the old things are inspiring new things.
That's
and I think that's something you have to look at that way too. Both ways work.
Yeah,
Both ways work.
That the pandemic has given us an opportunity to stop to reflect, to go back and think about what are the things that I love? You know,
Yes.
what are the things that I used to do?
Right.
And then another aside, I just heard right before we started this that the legendary Hank Aaron passed away.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So sorry to hear that.
I know. When I that came on, I was just happened to be looking at Sports Center at that time, and I saw that, and I shed a few tears there because growing up, Hank Aaron was big for me, and my father was a baseball player, and that was big in our house.
Wow, that is so wonderful. That's so wonderful. So tell me, you guys, how have you sustained yourselves emotionally during this time? It sounds like you've been so busy that maybe it hasn't been a concern for you, but for a lot of people, they've really struggled emotionally to find their way.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Wendy.
I've been spending a lot of time. I balance. I've always been a balancer, but I realize the more important now to be balanced. So that means I meditate. I'm eating right. I read a lot. I am synced into my passions, but I have to balance. I have to, step back. I've been doing a lot of writing. I'm writing a memoir. Memoirs, whether it gets published ever or not, it doesn't really matter, folks. Write memoir. I mean, honestly, you realize you go through, it's like sifting through the rubble, and you find that there's nuggets, things you didn't remember, but they all come back when you start writing them down. So writing is so important. Yeah, I've been finding a lot of the writing helps. Exercise, regular exercise, which there's another thing. We had an elliptical that was covered with stuff in our garage. And as soon as the health club closed down, I was like, you have to unbury that elliptical. And one car did barely fit into the garage, but we did. And yes, we're lucky we have a garage. Oh, for goodness sakes, be grateful every day. Okay,
right.
That's all I have to say. So for everything, whatever you have, you have it.
Right. And I think that's going to really inform our lives going forward. I think many people thought, oh, I need this, I need that. I don't have this, I don't have that. Now we have so little compared to what we've had, but we are so grateful for what we have.
Yes.
And that's a real life lesson. A real life lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So DB, go ahead, Wendy.
It could always be worse. So say to yourself, if
Right.
you can't find gratitude, whenever I hear somebody kind of complaining, I'm going, yeah, it could always be worse.
Always be worse. That's absolutely right. DB, so what are your thoughts? How have you kept yourself sustained and encouraged during this?
A lot of the same things, now that I, it's just me here doing these things and working by I have I would say exercise. It's been good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Been able to meditate and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Gone kind of, like I said, gone in reverse a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that a lot. I have over 250 CDs that I bought over the last 5 to 6 years. Have not been able to listen to them. Guess what I'm doing now? Listening to one a day.
That's great.
I'm listening to one a day, and it's inspiring to me. And to hear all these different styles of things, CDs that I bought. Some DVDs too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I finally get to look at this movie. What a great film this is. I feel so good right now. Guess I'll go have a glass of wine now. Wine and a little cheese. I think I'll feel good after that. And I listen to a good CD by somebody like, boy, I always liked that record. How come I didn't listen to this when it came out? Because I was so busy and so entrenched in what my everyday thing. And it's really good now. So that's kind of keeping me balanced. That's keeping me balanced. Like I said, doing my reading and also, learning how to be a good housekeeper.
Yeah. And a better chef.
I've gotten really good at that.
Yeah, it's good. We've learned a lot of new skills unrelated to our profession. So
yes, exactly.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I think DB was burning the candle at both ends. So he had the orchestra, plus he was doing Wendy. There were times he had 3 gigs a day. Okay. So the pandemic has actually been a gift to him. So he can actually find out who, and this is true of people that were burning the candle at both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
You're right. Mm-hmm. You're right. It's been a gift in a way, if you can think of it.
A great example of that. I'll give you a great example of that. I had to go, Wendy and DB had 2 gigs in Bloomington. We had to go down to Bloomington and play a gig. And then we leave there and we go to Peoria and play a gig, same day. And then I said, okay, one day she says, well, I'm going home now. I'm not. I I got to go downtown to the Hilton and play a gig from 8 to 1.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
I'm driving back. I'm just driving. Okay, don't speed. Just take your time because it's going to be a long evening. And then you get home at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Exhausted.
When you left at 6 in the morning, and
That's right.
it's exhausting. You sleep all day.
That's right. So who has time to listen to CDs and meditate?
Exactly.
And other things?
Right. You just say, maybe you turn the TV on, look at the news for a minute. Okay, that was good. Any good movies on? No, forget that. I'm going back to bed.
Right. That is right. Well, what a delightful conversation this has been. Wendy Morgan and Daryl Boggs, I thank you guys for being with us today. I'm going to ask Jess to come back and close us out here.
Thank you, Greta. Thank you so
Thank you so much. Yes.
Absolutely.
Wonderful
Thank
talking.
you.
Yes.
It was wonderful to listen. Thank you guys for the conversation. And yeah, I think when the busyness slows down, it allows us to find that space for the other things. And it was great to hear you guys share about how that has manifested for you all as well. So thank you guys for this time today. Thank you for making space in your schedules with everything else that you're doing virtually. Hopefully it's not running to the Hilton, but it's opening up another Zoom window. Busy looks different these days.
Yes.
But yeah, we thank you guys for making time. And again, Greta, thank you so much for bringing the conversation to this space.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. And Henri, thank you. This has been, it's been wonderful. You know, it's so nice to hear from so many different perspectives what people are doing and how they're spending their time and how they've been able to pivot and create new opportunities for themselves. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely it. And and Wendy just talking too about like the writing and things like this, that creativity and making space to explore the products of that. Like this is a great time for that. Whether it's reinventing and reimagining how the work can manifest or making space for new creative products. And Wendy, I love that you say too that like not all memoirs that have to be published. Like the point of it, the agenda is the doing, not necessarily the where it's going. And then you find out where it can go just by the act of starting. So I think that's great. Yeah, that's great. And I'm hoping that that's something that is like a olive branch of hope to anybody that is feeling creatively stifled at home. Because I mean, I think that right now creativity is the mother of invention, like we talk about, and there's so many ways to MacGyver things into new creative products. So it's been exciting to hear what that's looked like for you guys during this time.
And taking Zoom class. I mean, Zoom, everything's available on Zoom. I know the kids like YouTube, that's fine. I like the personal connection of Zoom, to be able to, but I'm taking a painting class. I've been painting for years, but it's, to be with people, that's a way that you can have a community. I know it's a second to being able to really be with people, but.
Yeah, but it's very fulfilling though. It's very fulfilling.
It is.
It's all we have now. So.
It all feeds on how DB didn't say, but him coming over here, he sees my dog Hemingway and he gives him kisses. I mean, he does get, even if he has to wear a mask, we've been able to stay together. So
Right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, well, this has just been such a delight. Such a delight to be with you guys. Thank you so much. And I wish you much, 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 much continued success with your online, with your virtual things, as well as your in-person things when the time comes that you're able to get back to them.
And you too. Thanks
You
for
too. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for being here today. If you haven't had a chance to catch up on the series, these are also archived on our YouTube page. You can look us up at Coffer Center. Watch previous weeks of SoundCheck with Dr. Greta Pope, and stay tuned for coming weeks. Be sure to follow us on social. You'll get those announcements as they're coming up, and you can also pre-register and be part of the conversation in the chat. So we look forward to having you with us for future weeks. And again, Wendy DB, thank you for being here. Greta, thank you for bringing this to the community.
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody has a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, folks.
Bye-bye.